Welcome to this new video. The setting has changed. I'm in the workshop, not far from the work area where I am right now, which is the laundry room that I'm transforming into a bathroom. And you'll even see that we're going to use the bathroom floor to do a test. Ever since I've been making videos and putting up partitions, there's a question that comes up very often. It's whether you can glue a track 48, 70 or 100 directly onto a liquid screed if I have underfloor heating and can't drill, on a screed if I have a water supply, an electrical supply, or a drain so I can't drill. And we're even going to do the test on tile and on leveling compound. Since in the workshop I have tile and leveling compound, this area is going to be redone soon so I can afford to do some tests. We're going to do a test with a track. We're going to cut small pieces of 15 or 20 centimeters. There's no point in gluing 3 meters of track. I'll do the test on the tile, on the leveling compound, and on the concrete slab. We're going to glue with polymer adhesive. You'll see that it holds very well. And we're even going to do a test with a wooden sole plate. We're going to glue the wooden sole plate on the tile, on the leveling compound, and on the concrete slab. And you'll see that it holds just as well. The advantage of the wooden sole plate is that you can separate the track from the support. And once the wooden sole plate is glued, you can screw the track directly onto the sole plate. While the wooden sole plate and track dry on the tile, leveling compound, and concrete slab, I'll show you common ways to attach a track to the floor, like using anchors and screws. We'll use a hammer-in anchor to nail the track to the concrete slab and concrete screws to screw into the slab. I'm not going to do a pull-out test. It's completely pointless since I'll just end up bending the track. However, for the polymer glue, yes, we'll try to pull it off once it's glued onto the tile, the leveling compound, and the concrete slab. So if you enjoy my videos, the best way to support me is to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell to get new videos, and give a big thumbs up. You can also follow me on Instagram. I regularly post photos and videos. For our first test, we'll glue a scrap piece of rail onto the tile. I cut up scraps since gluing 3 meters of rail isn't necessary. So here I have two options. Either I keep my existing tile, in which case I glue my rail and the tile remains, or I tell myself, well, I'm going to retile over it anyway. So I can scratch it up completely to get better adhesion. If I keep the tile, I'm going to glue the rail. Of course, we'll mark on each side. And once it's marked on each side, we can scratch the tile. The idea here is really to remove as much dust as possible, to vacuum and wipe with some acetone. Then we'll scratch it again. I'm going to degrease again, but first I need to mark off the area from my rail right here. So now I'll be able to scratch this area to get better adhesion. So we're going to use a grinder with a diamond disc and we're just going to scratch the surface. That's it. So here, the goal was really to scratch the tile to get better adhesion. We can afford to go a little over because afterwards there's the thickness of the drywall, so it won't show. And then you're supposed to put baseboards on each side of your drywall. So now that it's scratched, I can vacuum and degrease. So we take some acetone. You can spray it directly on. We degrease as much as possible. And we do the same for the rail. There you go. Let's say we're like this. So now that the support is degreased, we can glue the rail. We can't just use any glue. We're going to use a polymer adhesive, specifically the Rupson FT101. So why this glue? Well, simply because polymer adhesive is resistant to moisture. You can glue it onto a damp surface. So if your screed or slab has rising damp, this glue will stick. You'll find the link in the description. The Rupson FT101, you'll see it sticks. But really, when I tell you it sticks, after that it's impossible to pull off. Anyway, we'll do a test. I told you at the end of the video. We'll hit it with a mallet. We'll try to take everything off. So now I've loaded the cartridge into the gun. We're going to make a bead on each side. And then all we have to do is apply it to the floor. We press. We line up with the marks we made. We press down. it comes out on the sides, then use a utility knife to remove it easily. It's glued. We're going to let it dry quietly for 24 hours, and in 24 hours we'll try to hit it. So if you're in a hurry and you say, right now it's true, it moves, I've glued it, but I still want to put the studs in, there is a very simple trick, which is to scrape the glue off the sides. You take large boards, you bring them up against your rail, and on these boards you place bags. Bags of tile adhesive, mortar, cement, whatever you want, and the rail will be blocked on both sides, so it won't be able to move anymore. But here, as long as the adhesive hasn't dried, it does move a little bit, but we have a suction effect here that's actually pretty incredible. I'll leave it as is. Next, we'll move on to the second tile technique, the wooden base. So for the second test, we're going to glue a wooden base directly onto the tile. It's exactly the same principle as with the rail earlier. We mark on each side, we scratch the tile, apply the glue, press down and let it dry. Once it's dry, I can take the rail and screw it directly onto the wooden base. It's important to use a base that's thick enough, because if you use MDF, plywood or 15mm particle board for example, you'll need to use small screws. Here I can use a screw that's at least 25mm long. So we glue, then screw the track. I don't put any tape under the wooden base, nor under the track that I glued onto the tile. This type of tape is completely useless since I'm using glue. Between the wooden base and the track though, I can put the tape there. So we do the same thing again with the vacuum, the grinder, and we're going to scratch the tiles. I'll position myself like this. The surface is degreased. We take the polymer again, the Rubson FT101. We stick our base on. It's glued, we let it dry, and once it's dry, we screw the rail on top, and once everything is dry, we hit it and see how it turns out. This time, we're going to focus on the third test. We're going to glue the rail directly onto the leveling compound. I had replaced some tiles in my workshop and poured leveling compound where 2 tiles were, where I was thinking of making the opening to access my crawl space. Since I have leveling compound, we'll also glue the rail. So we're going to glue it about here. This time, there's no point in putting acetone on the leveling compound. We'll just vacuum and glue it directly. And then we do the same thing with the wooden base. So some people might think there's no point in marking both sides since the glue overflows, but once it's dry, a quick trim and you'll see the lines on each side, and I'll hit it to see if it shifts, that's all. That's why I marked both sides. So that's done. Now let's focus on the wooden base. So, fourth test, wooden base on the leveling compound. Of course, you can sand the leveling compound. There's no need to strip it completely. You can sand the surface to remove any possible dirt. In my case, it was poured not too long ago. I vacuumed it thoroughly. You can wipe it with a cloth if you want. And now the idea is to glue the wooden base directly on the leveling compound created by Neo035. So, just like earlier, I forgot to mark on each side. There you go. So here you really need to let the glue overflow on each side. Push it out. Move the piece you want to glue as much as possible. And the excess, there's no point wiping it off with a cloth. You'll just get it everywhere. Once it's dry, a quick cut with a utility knife and it comes off easily. And like I said, you'll have your drywall panels afterward, so whatever sticks out won't be visible. The baseboards, you're good. So this time we're going to do the same thing. We're on a concrete slab. We're going to glue the track and the wooden sole plate in exactly the same way. We'll make sure to clean off the dust. We degrease thoroughly, very important. So, degreasing the concrete slab isn't really useful because it evaporates right away. Concrete is porous, so you can pour liters of acetone on it, but it won't do any good at all. So, we vacuum it, that's enough. We apply the glue. And there you go, so we let this one dry and we'll work on the wooden sole plate.
Oh no, I got a stain on myself. I got some on my pants. First time that's happened in a video.
So the famous stain on the pants, if you don't want to look like a Dalmatian, if your pants are black, of course it's going to show. I got rid of mine. I'm making another one on purpose. There you go, you see a little stain. What can we use to remove it? Well, simply with acetone. I'm putting the glue back. We take a cloth, some acetone, or some PVC cleaner, whichever you prefer. And we remove it. You can scrub. And it comes off very easily. There you go. Don't rub with your fingers or push glue into the fabric or it'll be ruined. Rubbing with acetone removes it immediately, so I don't look like a Dalmatian.
So let's move over here. Let's draw.
Vacuum it up. And we can glue. And there you go. Now we let it dry and we'll see how it turns out. While the glue dries under the wooden sole plate, rail, tile, leveling compound, and behind me on the concrete slab, we let it set. Meanwhile, I cut leftover rail pieces. We'll test them on the concrete slab. We're fastening a rail with an anchor and screw as usual. Also a hammer in anchor. We'll also nail a rail and use a concrete screw directly into the slab. I won't try to pull them out. It's absolutely pointless, except for bending the rail. But as I told you, once the polymer glue is dry, after 24 hours, we're going to try to pull it off. So this time we're going to fasten the rail in the simplest way, anchor and screw. Let's assume I've put the strip underneath, everything's fine. We're going to drill with a 6 or a 5, that's more than enough. Later, we'll do a test with the screw we use in concrete. It'll be 8 millimeters in diameter, but honestly, 6 millimeters is the most common and it works. So I have two options. Either I drill my track first, put it back on the floor, mark it with a pencil, remove it, drill, put in the anchor, reposition it and fix it. Or I drill directly through my track and the slab, and that's what we're going to do. So once you've drilled your entire track, here I vacuumed so there wouldn't be too much dust for the video. You put the anchor in, press it in, take a screw, either a round head or a countersunk head, it doesn't matter, and you just screw it in. And now it's secured. Of course, over a length of 3 meters, you can put one every 50 seam yards, that's enough, or every 60 or every 40, it's up to you. So for this part, it's done. We're going to do the same thing, but with a hammer in anchor. This time, we're going to use a hammer in anchor. So we drill 6 mm diameter, we position the anchor and we hit it with a hammer. You can use a screwdriver and tap on the screwdriver, and you can even screw it in directly. So we take the anchor, put it in the hole, make sure it's straight and use the hammer. And that's it. I'll do a second one to show you that we can also take a screwdriver, position it, and tap on the screwdriver. So that was really the simplest way to fix a rail to the floor. A plug, a screw, hammer and plugs. Now we'll move on to the nail gun. Of course, there's the price of the nail gun, and then if you screw directly into the concrete, it has a certain cost, but honestly for a rail, there's no point. But for larger structures, yes, it works really well and you'll even benefit from it. So now we're using a slightly more advanced technology, namely the concrete nail gun. Of course, it has a certain cost, but if you do this all day, you'll benefit from it. It's really simple. You press, you nail, and that's all there is to it. So obviously it's much faster. There's no need to drill, vacuum, put in a plug, screw, or hammer a screw. You nail it in, then it's impossible to remove. The last way to fix a rail to the floor, which is a bit excessive for this type of structure but would be good for a heavy load, is the concrete screw. You drill and screw directly into the concrete without a plug. It replaces chemical anchoring and anchor bolts. So we'll drill with an 8mm bit and then screw it in using the impact driver and a 13mm socket. So once we've drilled, we position the screw, grab the impact driver and the size 13 socket. And that's all there is to it. You just have to screw it in, and you can see it's so strong that it was bending the rail. Honestly, I can pull on it now. Now you can go ahead. So the first victim is going to be this one, the wooden plate that we glued to the tile with the polymer adhesive. We're going to hit it and see if it holds up. Well, there you go. The result is clear. The wood broke and the glue didn't move at all. So we're going to move on to the rail, but first we'll try to remove the glue along with the remaining plywood. I think you understood that it held. Even by hitting it, by trying to scrape it, the glue really stuck to the tile that I scratched, of course. Second victim is going to be the rail. We glued it, again with the polymer glue, directly onto the tile. We scratched the tile with the diamond disc. We hit it and see how it reacts. Here, we can see that the glue hasn't completely dried underneath. Because the surface is sealed where the rail is, it doesn't breathe. The glue couldn't dry and evaporate, unlike the wood where we saw it was completely dry. So I think on the leveling compound, in my opinion, it's bone dry. Since we're not on a sealed surface, the glue was able to dry. Same for the concrete. So, third victim, the rail on the leveling compound. Honestly, I think it must have held because unlike the tile, we're on a surface that's not completely sealed, so the glue was able to dry. We can already see it holds. No matter how hard we hit it, it stays on. It's already much more resistant compared to the tile. Here, I can't even get it off. It's much tougher. I can't even do it. Well, that was tough. So now the glue has dried well, unlike the tiles. And honestly, now it's holding. On the leveling compound, on the screed, and earlier on the concrete, I think it's going to be hard to remove. You can see the result. Fourth victim, wooden saw plate placed directly on the leveling compound. I didn't show the demo, but I'm screwing the track on top. You get that I use a wooden saw plate to screw the track. So we hit it. Just like earlier, now it holds. On the tiles, it holds because of the wood. The glue was able to breathe and evaporate, so it held. Here we can see that the glue is completely dry. The fifth victim, the wooden base on the concrete slab. We hit it. And just like before, it holds. From the moment we're on a surface that breathes, that's porous, the glue can evaporate and so it dries. And our last victim, the rail glued directly onto the concrete slab. It looks like it's holding. Yeah, it's holding. It's actually holding really, really well. So here, just like with the leveling compound, it's holding but really well. I should have put a bit more here, but just on the edges, you saw that it held. So, gluing with polymer adhesive on tile and the wooden base, it held. You really have to hit it hard to get it off. On the leveling compound, same thing, you have to keep at it. And there, as you saw, it holds. But I think that one gave me the most trouble. The rail directly on the leveling compound. However, on the tiles, you really need to cut into the tiles more so the glue can dry. Since the rail, the surface is non-porous. And here, maybe I didn't scratch or cut into the tiles enough. And on the concrete slab, as you saw, I hit the wooden base, it broke cleanly. So the glue is holding underneath, and it's the same for the rail. That was my fault, I didn't use enough glue. But the small amount of glue I used still holds very well.
All right, let's try again. We won't let our first failure stop us. Well, failure.
We saw that it dried on the sides, but in the middle, the glue hadn't dried. I'm starting to see why. We're using polymer glue and I may have used too much, especially since we're working on a sealed surface, even if we plan to strip it. And now we're going to strip it a bit more than the first time. I'm putting a bead of glue on the sides. If I add more in the middle, the glue can't dry because it's not exposed to air, it's trapped. So the idea is to put a bead of glue on one side and on the other side. In the middle, we don't put anything at all. And the air will be able to circulate. So my glue will be able to quote unquote evaporate and dry. So we're going to do our second test here. We trace again. We get the diamond disc grinder. We're going to strip a bit more than the first time. We degrease and we glue, we degrease. So here, I'm just going to put glue only on the sides. It's glued. We let it dry for 24 hours and then we try to pull it off. So 24 hours later, we're going to try to remove the rail. But from what I can see, it seems to be holding. Remember, for this one, we put glue on the sides and in the middle. Maybe I didn't scratch the tile enough, but the glue hadn't completely dried in the middle. Still, it was holding well on the sides. Here, I didn't put any in the middle, so if I hit it, normally it holds. Let's try to pull on it with pliers. If I roll it up, it's still pretty tough. Here we go. I can't do it. I can't do it. It's still holding up much better, but the glue isn't quite dry yet. Maybe it should be left for longer than that. So directly on tiles, the polymer glue should be left to dry much longer, like 48, 72 hours, then do a test. But already it's holding up much better than the first time. We can see that when exposed to air, the glue dries and polymerizes. But it's not quite there yet. So with a wooden sole plate, I think that's really ideal. Since the glue will really penetrate into the wood, it breathes. And here on the tiles. So afterwards, we could cut the tiles on each side, completely remove the thickness of the tiles to get down to the screed. Put the wooden base in and screw the rail onto the wooden base. Because if I cut the tile and put the rail directly on the screed, you can see that it holds on leveling compound on concrete slab. But I wouldn't have enough height to screw in my drywall. Because here, let's say a tile is 1 cm thick, there won't be much left for me. So it's better to insert a wooden base at this spot. And then you screw the track directly. But on wood, it holds. Anyway, you've seen it. On concrete slab tile or leveling compound,
Securing to the floor is no longer a secret to you.
you know what you have to do if you want to fix a rail on a liquid screed with underfloor heating in it, a traditional screed with a water supply, an electrical supply, or a drain, or even on tile or leveling compound. The rail or the wooden base, the right polymer glue, you'll find the link in the description. Let it dry thoroughly and then it holds on its own. So if you're in a hurry, like I said, the rail, boards on each side, you put bags of mortar, plaster or tile adhesive to add weight, and you can set up your studs and move forward. We'll meet again soon for another video about the sliding door. I removed it, we're going to do some plastering and we'll paint both panels. We'll be able to hang the sliding door and make progress on the closet and the bathroom door, because I absolutely need to finish these 2 panels to be able to move forward. And at least the sliding door is hung and I won't touch it anymore. We'll meet again soon for another video, because I also get a very frequent request. It's about how to install a reinforcement in furring channels every time I've shown you with standard studs. Attach 2 flat plates, and this time we'll do it with a furring channel, and you'll see that it's very simple to do. Thank you for watching this video. We'll see each other again very soon, and in the meantime, take care.